napalong jud to. Sensya kayo ga-brand out sa mua. Sa inyo sa inyo Sa inyo na po rin itabo sa inyo
Yes,
ga-brand
sir.
out po.
Nag-burn out po sa
Yes,
amin,
sir.
Di ay. Na mo kaya nakita na bilin na uban na estudyante. Then kuan ka sila, loyal ka sila. Nanyawa ba din sila dayon daw. Yung ano ang kauban na teacher na ako. So, katong nabilin, kuan, ghosting to ni tabo ato. Char. So, represent na ako ang kuan, ang akong slide. So, nakita rin ninyo? Blank yung slide. So, okay. So, kinis picture gi-show sa kuan. Sabi na notice ninyo. Saan siya na movie? Kita na muna na movie.
Ice Age, sir.
Ice Age, sir.
Yes, Ice Age siya. So, silly question. Kung namo diri, unsa may buhaton ninyo? Since wala pa man ta nakakuan diri tanan. Naka-add to. Unsa mga silly things sa imong buhaton diri if kung kuan? Sige, share mo. Okay, share po na ako.
Snowball.
So, kuan.
Snowball sa snow.
Magdula sa snow. Dahil sa pa, ito man. Ito po may gusto nyo bahatong diri if kung kuan. Okay. I-share lang ako kay expected na boring chicken na kuan. Boring chicken discussion. So, sa start pa lang, pwede na nato. So, probably ang bahaton diri kay mato ko diri kay kuan siguro. Maghimo og kuan, halo-halo, char. Na-record niyo kayo, char. Sige, mag-start na sa kuan class. So, our lesson for today is all about glaciers. So, kung madunggan niyo about glaciers, what are glaciers, day? Unsa day yung glaciers? Anyone? Unsay kuan? Para sa inyo, one word lang unsa ang glaciers para sa inyo.
Ice, sir.
Ice. Dako na ice, sir.
Yes. Yes, dako na ice, may kamay na ice. Sakto siya. So ang glaciers glaciers are a large and perennial accumulation of crystalline ice, snow, rock, sediments, and often liquid water that originates on the land, moves down slope under the influence of its own weight and gravity. So same with the Japanese sa kuan ay atong mga previous lesson na to utong sa kuan sa mass wasting. Nadya po siya katong weight, the existing the weight and gravity. So the term glacier comes from the French word glace, which means glaciers are often called river of ice. So massive ice sheet covered much of North America and Europe during the Pleistocene time period. This was the last glacial period, also known as the Ice Age. So during atong na time, wala bata ato pero Ice Age exist na siya before pa jud. Dugay na siya gi-exist. So ice sheet reached their greatest size about 18,000 years ago. As the ancient glaciers spread, they carved and changed the Earth's surface, creating many of the landscape that exists today. During Pleistocene Ice Age, nearly 1/3 of Earth's land was covered by glaciers. Today, about the 1/10 of the Earth's land is covered by glacial ice. So, from 18,000 years ago, fully kuan ba jud ang kuan, wala pa siya na-develop ang Earth. While nahitabo na siya, ang glaciers isa di sa mga isa rin sa isa kuan ga-exist siya wala siya isa sa ga-form sa earth isa siya sa ga-form sa earth mo nay kuan mo nay purpose of the glaciers. So dili lang dahil katong mga kuan mga tong mga previous discussion katong frost land or kuan erosion or kuan tong sa mga land sa water na kuan or tong mga tropical na region na kuan also po din napod din nahitabo diri so there are two types of glaciers: the alpine mountain glaciers, cirque glaciers, valley glaciers, fjord glaciers, piedmont glaciers, and ice caps. So continental glaciers, ice shelves. So unsa man kali anin duha di ay kini alpine mountain glaciers ug continental glaciers. Anyone? Unsa may kalian di ani? Na-mention ganina og na big and small. So, unsa di kalian sila duha? So, mo na hint para nako sa inyo. Unsa di kalian sa aning duha?
Ang continental sir kay ang biggest type of glaciers. Tapos
Yes.
ang
So,
mountain glaciers kay relatively small.
oh, yes, very good. That's a very good answer. So, imo na gisulti tanan. So, kato. So, types of glaciers. So, mo ni. So, ang alpine glaciers is kuan lang siya, gamay lang siya, specific lang siya na lugar. So and continental continental glacier is exist siya wala siya a whole bitaw sa kuan. Ang pinaka best example ng continental glacier is the Antarctica. So Antarctica kay puro rigid siya ice na didto. Then sa kaning alpine glaciers is most likely those mga mga mountain regions na which is prone kani siya sa kabugnaw. So dari tulo ka type sa day. So ako gi-mention ganina sa lima siya kabuok. Actually, lima siya kabuok. So, mo ni siya. So, ang Alpine Glaciers. Ang Piedmont Glaciers di ay. Kay, ang formation na niya, kay, ayang gapaubos siya na bitaw. Gapaubos. Compare aning sa Cirque o sa Valley Glaciers na nara siya diri, na stop lang siya diri. So, I will explain it later. Basically, later, i-explain na to. Explain sa nato ng uban. So, glaciers in mountain that flows down valley is called Alpine Glaciers. So, as you have seen, kita ninyo na mo ni mga glaciers sa top, yung top ng mga sa mga ice. So, those glaciers that you can see in the mountain ranges are called Alpine Glaciers. There are different ways how Alpine glaciers are formed. If a glacier is formed on a steep walled basin of a mountain, then also, a cirque glacier is the smallest type of glacier that are confined in a valley. Forms in a semicircular basin have head of valley formed by plucking of bedrock by glacier moving downhill. So basically, initabo diri sa cirque glacier is kanabitong when kanabitong maslide ang ang glacier from time to time na maapila na sediments na katong mga mga bato-bato. Well, sige siya kahulog na maapil so kani na form na siya na form na bitaw wala siya kanang basin ito siya ni bangag na ga-form ano siya. So isa din sa naka big factor ang glacier ng nganong ga-form ang ganang amount information niya. So on the other hand, the valley glacier are confined to the valley, usually form streams. If the valley glacier extends down to sea level, It may carve a narrow valley into the coastline. The narrow valley, they are carved and later become filled with seawater after the ice has melted or forged. So, mo na siya ang Valley Glacier. So, most likely, ang dapat naman ano mo kung makita nimong Valley Glaciers is kaning mga mountain ranges din sa kilid. So, ga-form siya, wala siya river na kuan like kanang bitong kuan na siya pathways bitaw. So, muna makita ninyo sa kuan sa Valley Glaciers. So, nag-stock lang sila dara since wala pa man nga kuan. Once na ma-flow na siya. So, then katong gitawag og kuan carving. So, ang carving dahil nahitabo di ay is kana bitong kuan sa pinakatumoy na part sa kuan which is ma-explain diri sa fjord na glaciers. Muna yung fjord glaciers. Once may tabo ng carving dira, it happens due time. So, when time comes, kaning part sa kuan, kaning pinakatumoy na kuan na part sa glacier. Once na makuan ni siya, anam itong mga kuan, makarb mo siya due to time, then makapasamot rag carb, makapaspas rag carb tungod si ang temperature or tungod sa kanang itong pinaka-causes yun sa nganong kuan, nganong makarb ang mga ice is global warming. That's why karon we feel na global warming kay slowly and more faster na siya compare sa una, then gana carb ang kuan. So mo ni siya. So ang part ani kay kung mahulog siya kay mahimo siyang kuan sa ganito. Mahimo siyang iceberg actually. Katong part na sa kuan, part ani sa mga ice or sa glaciers is kung makakuha ni sila, may silang iceberg if mo-float sila. So, if the Valley Glacier extends down to sea level, it may carve down so the coastline. The narrow valleys can carve, later become filled with seawater after the ice melted and first connected. So, connected na siya. So, or if they have extended the sea level, those valleys keep on moving and they meet and merge at the base of the mountain. We call it, now it is the Piedmont Glacier flows to the sea and we call it Piedmont Glacier. So, ang nitabo sa Piedmont Glacier is gatagbo siya, duwa ka kuan tong sa valley kuan just think ko tong sa valley na kuan. Dili sa Piedmont Glacier, kaning duha ka kuan diri ganun bitong duha ka book flow from different mountains, gatagbo siya. So mo ni nahitabo katong flow sa kuan. Manitabo sa kuan Piedmont Glacier. So connected din siya tanan. So, two glaciers meet and merge at the base of the mountain. So, unsa may nakalian sa kuan? Fjords and Tidewater. Tidewater Glacier. Anyone? Unsa may nakalian sa dupo di ay? Hello? So, ako na lang, kuan. So, fjord is from a valley that extends to the sea. Tidewater is from mountain base. So, gikan na sa mountain base sa mountain di ay. So if Piedmont Glacier flows to the sea, it's called Tidewater Glaciers. So katong hitabo dito sa kuan, kung mo-flow na siya sa kuan, so may mo na siyang Tidewater Glaciers from uh five Piedmont Glaciers actually. Ice cap. So if all the valleys in the mountain range become filled with glacier, and the glacier covered the entire mountain range, we call it the ice caps. So unsa ni tabo diri sa ice caps day class? Unsa ni tabo day ani? Hello?
Ang mountain, sir,
Anyone?
kina-cover na siya entirely of glacier, sir.
Yes. Sakto. So very specific siya kay kuan. Na-cover siya og kuan. So ice caps are an ice mass that covers less than 500 kilometers. 500,000 kilometers above, it's called ice cap. If all valleys in the mountain range become filled with glaciers and the glacier cover the entire mountain range. So ano siya, naka-cover na siya. Exactly. So thank you for your answer. It's a very good answer, by the way. Okay, dali rin kayo. So continental glaciers, the largest type of glaciers on Earth, they cover a large area of the land surface, including mountain areas. It is found only in Greenland and Antarctica. So, ironic, kay green kuan. Actually, there's a lot of green there. So, Antarctica is also basically, makita ra gyud mo diri kay ice ra gyud. So, this is the picture of the Greenland and Antarctica. Compare nimo sa Antarctica kay pure ra gyud siya ice. So, mo na siya. Then this, kung namo sa Google Earth or sa kan, so this is the Greenland and Antarctica. Antarctica kay mas baga yun yung ice kay na-expose siya sa kabugnawon sa kuan kay dili man kay siya makakuha og sunlight man good. Most like mo dyan na tapo sa kuan. Now we go to the ice shelves. Ice shelves are sheets of ice floating in water and attached to land. So they usually occupy coastal embayments may extend hundreds of kilometers from land and reach thickness of 1,000 meters. So basically wala siya kanang wall sa Game of Thrones. Nagta niyo. Episode pa lang dato gipinsaan nila na wall. So ice is from numerous ice sheet are slowly oozes. So oozes which means ni flow siya or gone, yung nag-flow into the sea through glaciers and ice streams. If the ocean is cold enough, the newly arrived ice doesn't melt right away. Instead, it may float on the surface and grow larger as the glacial ice behind. It continues to flow into the sea along protects the coastlines. The resulting ice shelves can be survived for thousands of years. Bolstered by the rock of peninsula and islands, ice shelves grow when they gain ice from land, and occasionally shrink when the iceberg calves off their edges. This gives them this give and takes helps them to maintain the dynamic and stability. So, mani ito yung itabo, no? Katong mga parts ice is nabuo ra gyud siya tungod sa kuan, kabugnaw sa kuan. So, manotice na ninyo itong wala siya kuan. Think of an iceberg. Maporma siya kadugayan tungod sa iyang kabugnaw sa kuan sa weather. So, mahitabo ra pud siya, magamay ra pud siya tungod aning halving. Most likely kining sa kilid na part kay sila man joy ma-expose sa init mong mahulog sila. So most likely kana ra ang cycle sa kuan sa ice shelves. So ice shelves are more bigger than kuan alpine na kuan sa mountains na glaciers. So temperate and polar glacier. Temperate glacier also called isothermal glaciers because they exist at the pressure melting point. The melting temperature of ice at the given pressure throughout their mass, their ice in polar or cold glacier in contrast is below pressure on melting point. So you have C, kita ninyo na medyo part na vegetation diri sa compare diri sa So it depends Japon sa temperature. So if so may examples sa temperature and polar glaciers. So glacial formation. So glacier cannot be formed overnight. It takes millions of years to form. On our climate right now, it will only take short amount of time to melt. Grabe no? If kung imagine yun nimo, kung dali ra ang melting sa ice di ay, one of the biggest reason nga nung it is bad na mag-melt ano itong melting sa glaciers bitaw. It is bad na ma-melt ang glacier. Ngano? Tungod sa from think of it sa before ato na time kana yung glacier nagbitong kanang nag-ice na before ana na time let's say before pa sa ice age kana siya puros na siya vegetation. Kana vegetation ana niya kay kanang di ba ang plants kay kanang gastor na siya carbon dioxide. So katong na so pag ice age ana niya katong na store na carbon dioxide become the permafrost. Na permanent na siya frost from pila ka years ba to 18,000 years before katong gakuan. So katong the permafrost na napanom or something na something na nag-freeze. Ang carbon dioxide ito kay nabilin ra bitaw. Once na ma-unfrozen to katong mga tanom nag-exist or katong mga frozen na na nasa permafrost na jud na permafrost means permanent is i-release nila ang carbon dioxide moong mas mo siya kanang itong what we call kanang itong mas mo paspas siya sa mo nang dili jud very alarming jud if kung makita nimo na ang ang glaciers nimo na na very alarming jud dili ang jud na siya kay some would say na mutaas daw ang mutaas daw ang kanang na level of water dili actually jud na mahitabo jud na is katong mga carbon dioxide na maka-cause og global warming. So global warming pa kadiri-diraan sa inyo mas mosamot pa jud na katong mas mo trigger pa jud dito kung ma-melt na ang ice. Kay imagine dako kay na part ang sa earth ang glaciers. That's why kanang every small things matter. So yun pa nila every water drop counts. So moto. So glaciers begin forming in a place where more snow piles up each year than melts. Soon after falling, the snow begins to compress or become denser and tightly packed. It slowly changes from light, fluffy crystals to hard, round ice pellets. No new snow falls and there's granular snow. So this is what happens. From snowflakes and granular snow, so fern and glacier ice. So sa akong college before kay na mention yun na ako na Possible daw sa kuan sa for example sa Philippines na mag-snow pero tungod daw sa weather kanang snowflakes kaning kuan wa siya meat buster sa tuwa namin di ba kanang snowflakes wala pa lang siya naka-drop sa kuan nalanay na siya. Actually, if kung dili jud init atong kuan, dili jud init atong temperature, maka-experience pa gyud maka-experience pa gyud taning ice. Especially itong sa kuan, mga higher latitude na lugar, especially Baguio, naka-experience pa sila mga kuan. Pero tungod lang jud sa bitang sa kuan sa setting sa Philippines. Okay, nalanay na sila. So additional rin nini na kuan na wala na siya sa kuan topic pero very helpful kaninyo especially sa college na part. Especially kay kuan if no Ma'am Rica na discuss mo Ma'am Rica katupong sa kuan nganong dili dapat ma-melt ang kuan ang glacier sa Antarctic. So mo ni siya. So granular snow, fern, and glacier ice. So dili mahitabo na siya in a longer period of time. Dili na siya dili isa ra ka adlaw. So to change in glacier size. So a glacier can change size by accumulation, which occurs by addition of snowfall, compaction, and crystallization. Ablation, the loss of mass resulting from melting usually lower altitude where temperature may rise above the freezing point in the summer. So net accumulation of snow and melt ablation. So as you can see, so we have here the two zone of glacier anatomy. In accumulation zone is a region where snowpack or superimposed ice accumulation persists. In ablation zone is the zone where all the snow has melted away and bare glacier is ice exposed. So we have here, so let us know how the accumulation and ablation affect the movement of glacier. So glacial advance if the accumulation is greater than the glacial two advances. Glacial retreat if accumulation is less than ablation to retreats of slope. So mo to, tong advance din na part kay mato siya sa water if kung daghan ang snow dire if kung daghang snow mas mo slide siya gitungod sa weight and gravity niya. Then less equilibrium siya. So most likely wala siya avalanche. So there is a less snow, mas mo retreat ang kuan. Then more ablation. Like the snow forms of glacial movements siya. So like the slow forms of mass wasting, we normally cannot view glacier movement directly. Nonetheless, flowing ice has tremendous and geomorphic impact on the landscape. Most glaciers move through a combination of process, but internal plastic formation is the domination process. Virtually all along glacier experience this type of flow. Glaciers move to lower elevation under the force of gravity by two different processes. So, mo ni siya. Same nagyapon sa formation na niya. So, as you can see, na arrow dire, which is asa gapaingon ang kuan ang flow sa ice sa glaciers. So, the internal flow or deformation result from deformation of the ice crystal structure. The crystal slide over each like deck of cards. This is how glacier moves by internal flow or deformation. This type of movement is the only type that occurs in polar glacier, but it also occurs in temperate glaciers. The upper portion of glacier are brittle. When the lower portion deformed by internal flow, the upper portion may fracture to form large cracks and called crevasses. So, basal sliding polar glacier are usually frozen to their bed and thus to call for this mechanism to occur. So, muna siyang basal sliding. So, basal sliding is meltwater at the base of glacier, reduce friction by lubricating the surface and allowing the glacier to slide across its bed. So, basal sliding, polar glacier are usually frozen to their bed. So, glacier can slide because of ice melts under pressure, resulting in a film of water the ice bed interface. This can facilitate decoupling the enhanced fast ice flow. If the glacier bed is rough with many bumps and obstacles, this increases melting and ice flow. The process is known as regulation. So phenomenon of ice melting under pressure or freezing when the pressure is reduced. So this is what happened itong sa kuan. Actually, di siya makita. Pero so muna itabo sa kuan. Basal sliding. So the equilibrium glacial budget. So between the two zones is the line of equilibrium which point is input are balanced. The glacial budget refers to the balance between the amount of input versus the output affecting the glacial system. So as you can see that na siya fresh snow, the firn and glacial ice. So accumulated zone, equilibrium line, depletion zone. So during the winter and cold climatic periods, the equilibrium lines falls further down the glaciers, then occurs higher up in summer and warmer periods. If elevation outpaces the accumulation, mass balance is negative and glacier shrinks. If the two processes result in no net gain or loss, and ice, the mass balance is zero, and the glacier is in equilibrium, and a balanced state with no gain or loss. Again, a glacial budget is a total amount of accumulation and ablation for a glacier. If ablation exceeds accumulation, then the equilibrium will melt. If accumulation exceeds ablation, and the glacier will extend. The glacial budget describes how ice accumulates and melts on a glacier, which ultimately determines whether the glacier advances or retreat. A glacier behavior depends on the balance between accumulation and wastage. So wastage means melting. So glaciation, the process of glacier growth and establish is called glaciation. So glacier shape in the land through the process of erosion, weathering, transportation, and deposition, creating an instinct landform, a distinct landform. So if you remember the last topic before, glaciation is basically una silang giagian og kanang bitong glaciers. If ang glaciers magian muna pinaka simple na explanation actually. Winds if ang glacier kanang sa parts sa land is ma-slide siya, ma-scratch ang kuan niya. Land formation change. Also, tungod pud sa kanang itong kuan, kanang sa pinakaubos na part sa kuan glacier, mo melt mo to sila, mo sulod sila sa kuan. And then mo ice pud sila. So that's why pag ice na nila mabuak sila. So, 'di ba, itong sa last discussion na to before na kuan na if once na tong tubig sa ilalom is bagbuak na kuan. So maapil siya, mimo siyang kuan na maapil siya, mimo siyang kuan mapagbuak niya kay kuan itong physical weathering mo to. So along parallel scratches grooves and are produced in the bottom temperature glacier barracks, embedded ice scraping against the rock underlying glacier, linear scratches, grooves, and gouges. So mo to basically, so if na glacier exists dara once kuan if na movement sa glaciers maapil po ng yuta. So wanang kuan just review your last lesson kay basically more gyud ni hitabo gyapon sa glacier erosion. So glaciers stration or stratae or scratches gauges cut the bedrock glacier abrasion. These scratches gauges were the first recognized as a result of moving glacier in late 18th century in Swiss. Alpinists first associated them with moving glaciers. So, as you have known, glaciers are also moving. So, dili siya wala siya gapundo dara, dili siya stagnant. So, glacial polish. So, rock has smooth surface produced as a result and fine-grained materials embedded in the glacier acting like sandpaper on underlying surface. So, glacial polish, wala siya katong sa Japon physical weathering Japon na topic nato itong abrasion. Mo ni hitabo is if kung katong itong sa part bitaw na kuan kanang gikis-kis nimo ang kuan gatong sa kuan gilihan nimo gisan paper nimo ang kuan mo na ba nitabo same ra gyapon siya dito sa nitabo. So kita niyo sa part ani na kuan na nasinaw gid siya. So may glacial polish. So napunta sa dito na punta sa glacial erosion sa kuan landform produced by mountain glaciers. So, as you have seen, nice cirques, glacial valleys, and arids, horns, hanging valleys, fjord, roaches. So, product din siya sa glacial erosion. So, as you have seen, itong sa horn, sa arid, the Sturt Glacier, so ano siya? So cirques are the bowl-shaped depression that occurs at the head of the mountain glacier. The result from combination of frost wedging, glacier plucking, and abrasion. Sometimes small lakes called tarns occur in the bottom of the cirque. So lakes that form in the cirques are called tarns. So glacial valleys. So glacial valleys that once contained glacial ice become eroded into a U shape. So as you have seen, former siya U sa iyang kuan sa kanina na section. So muna siya timanon sa kuan glacial valleys. So naman sa last na to gikuan first na discussion ng glacial valley. So natunga ora siya natungaan na sa duha ka mountain bitaw din ga form siya U shape. It is actually happen for that even though katong sa part na dili bugnaw exist Japanese siya. So arids if the two adjacent valleys are filled with glacial ice. The ridges between the valleys can be carved into a sharp knife edges ridge called the arid. So, as you have seen, ito makita ninyo sa mga movies, na part na mga talinis na kuan, which is, na-carve ra gyapon ni siya tungod sa glaciers. Ini siya. And the horn, I'm sure siya tawag horns, where 3 or more cirques are carved out of mountain, they can produce a sharp peak called a horn. So, hanging valleys. So, when the glacier occupying a small arbitrary valley meets the larger valley, the tributary glacier usually does not have the ability to erode. It is based to the floor of the main valley. Thus, when the glacial ice melt, the floor of the tributary valleys hangs above the floor of the main valley that is called hanging valley. Waterfalls generally occur when the hanging valley meets the main valley. So, wala siya waterfall, di ba? That naiduha ka valley exist diri, then she's tawag siya hanging valley. Again, fjords are narrow inlets along the seacoast that were occupied by Valley Glacier called Fjord Glaciers. Roches Mountain is a asymmetric bedrock hills knobs that is smoothly rounded on the up ice side by abrasion by with blocking evident on the abrupt down of ice slide. So what happens here is uh katong leadership up blocking which is if kung naay ice na mag-slide diri if maapil tong mga mga uh, mga parts sa kuan, that's why nahitabuan ni nga uban ani mga kuan ni mga boulder bitaw na dagko na kuan bato maapil pud sila if kung naay kuan. So glacial erosion, landform landform produced by ice caps and ice sheets. So abrasional feature, the same small scale abrasional feature such as striation and glacial polish can occur beneath ice caps and ice sheets, particularly in temperate environments. Streamline forms the land surface beneath and moving content down ice. Sheet can be molded into smooth, elongated forms and called drumlins. So these are example of abrasional features. So glacier move very slow as they move. They transport material from one place to another. As the freeze thaw, weathering occurs along the edge of the glacier. Piece of rock which break to larger rocks fall into glacier and wear untransported. So mao to no na adunay a transportation hitabo when there is a glacier exists. So katong mga big small rocks, big rocks, maapil pud sila og kuan. Madala pud sila apil. So na movement sa kuan. So glacial deposits. So since glacier are solid, they can transport all size of sediments from huge boulders to fine grains. So the sediments deposit directly to melting of glacial. So all sediments are the result of glacial erosion are called glacial drift. So the isolate deposits. Fill is non-sorted glacial drift. Deposit directly from ice still consists of random mixture. So different sizes of fragments of angular rocks, matrix fine grain, sands, clay, and fragments were produced by abrasion with glaciers. So kani I will explain this to you one by one para na yung masabtan. Pero dili na ko explain ang katong mga formation kay it would take so much time. So I'll explain to you para tigaan na nalam mo idea about sa kuan about aning sa glacial na deposits. So erratics. So a glacially deposited rock fragment that now rests on the surface made of different rock. Erratics are often found in many kilometers from their source. So erratics basically itong mga bato na mga boulders na ito nga kuan ng apil og hulog bitaw sa kuan na nadala rapod sa kuan glaciers. Moraines are deposits of till that have formed different from underlying bedrock, depending on where it formed in relation to the glacier moraines can be. So katong mga moraines katong sila mga kuan or siya sedimentary kuan bitaw mga sedimentary rock na katong mga kuan nag-exist na kuan ra gyapon. Unlike sa erratics and moraines, ang moraines kay mga gagmay lang siya na kuan mga bato or sedimentary rocks. Ground moraines, these are deposited beneath the glacier and result of honky and topography with enclosed and small basin. So end moraines and terminal moraines are deposited at low elevation at the end of the glacier as the ice retreats due to ablation. So littoral moraines are deposits of till that were deposited along the side of the mountain glaciers. So with major moraines, there are two valleys glacier made from the largest glacier. There are debris along the sides of both glacier merge form a medial moraine. So glacial marine drift glacier are reach the ocean, even lakes may calve into the large icebergs. So drumlins, glacier retreats, leaving behind a terminal moraine. Later, it advances again, reshape and the moraine into drumlin. So, di na ako naikuan tanan kay it would take so much time if kung so this is what happened to glacier kuan. So glacial ages. So long-term variation in your climate tens of millions of years. And a single continent are likely caused by drifting continents. If a continent drifts toward the equator, the climate will become warmer. If the continent drifts toward the poles, glaciation can occur on the continent. Short-term variation in climates are likely controlled by the amount of solar radiation reaching the Earth. Among these are astronomical factors and atmospheric factors. So, kaninang long-term variation di this would happen in katong kuan the times sa itaw sa Pangea. I remember the kuan katong Pangea na kuan formation sa kuan tong sa landmass nato. Sa landmass kay they all believe na scientists all believe that the all believe na ang ang Earth ang landmass is moving tungod to then
Yan, klase ko yan. Nag-klase kami.
so I have here the example the white portion and on modern 18 years before the present and modern day. So this is an example of the ice melting. So unsa nahitabuan ni no? Ang nahitabuan ni kay which i-explain na ko ganina which is ang ice nagamelt. So this was happening 18,000 years of one in the present. So this is very alarming for us na it is happening right now. Itabo yun sa tuwa karon which is dapat mahadlok na ta or dapat natay dapat buhaton dapat para ma-stop ning kuan global warming. Kay isa gyud ang global warming sa causes na nganong kuan nganong nag-ice melt siya. Causes of glacial ages. So astronomical factors. A century ago, Serbian scientists Milutin Milankovic and hypothesized that the long-term collective effects of change in Earth position relative to the Sun are strong drivers of Earth's long-term climate and are responsible to trigger the beginning and the end of glaciation periods. So ice age. So changes in oceanic circulation. Small changes in oceanic circulation can amplify small changes in temperature, variation produced by astronomical factors. So oceanic circulation is katong mga wind patterns bitaw. Kung this will most likely discuss sa meteorology na class. If you have already discussed a meteorology class, then you would understand na kay katamong ang wind patterns magud kay nag-change magud na siya every time to time. That's why matingala karon na igang then tingala karon igang ay kanang hangin pero init bitaw na. So kanang oceanic circulation is a very big factor of how this ice glacier changes time to time. So atmospheric factors, heat trapping gas, sometimes called greenhouse gases, are cause of the climate warming and the glacier retreat in the past 50 years. So what happened before? nahitabo before sa una. Actually, greenhouse gases uh, are good for us. Actually, Jude, yung kuan sa science lang na perception. Pero if kung sobra na green gases kay dili na makaya sa earth, di na makaya bitaw sa earth na kuan i-cater na. So, for example, mga plants. So, if greenhouses gases kay before sa time exist, puno yung siya greenhouse gases ang atong earth. For atong start pa gyud ng kuan mga eons of time pa kato. Exist gyud kuan green gases. Is naabot itong mga kuan itong mga plants which is na gapa-stable sa kuan. So, big factor gyapon siya. So, causes of glacial ages. So, the energy output from the sun may fluctuate. Large explosive volcanic eruption can add significant quantities of dust to the atmosphere, reflecting solar radiation resulting in global cooling. So, moto if kung kung matabunon ang katong part sa kay dili makakuha ng sunlight, dili maka direct towardly to mo dili siya mas mo pulunin siya. So, how glacier affect on lives on Earth? Melting water provides many regions fresh drinking water. They create homes and habitats for many organisms in our animal kingdom. The melt of water, aka rundown glacier water, provides energy resources to certain countries. They provide water of the desert region. They also natural resources and people all over the world use melted water to glacier to produce. People living in arid climates near mountain often rely on glacial melt for their water the part of the other year. So farmers have also irrigated their crops for hundreds of years by channeling melted water glacier to their fields. So kani naro kay kuan ani na picture guys. Kanina picture kay kuan siya kanang sagali na why polar bears na gi-exist siya karon kaya because of tungod sa natural selection. What I mean by natural selection sa mga polar bear is katong mga black na polar bear kay is napulihan sila tungod kay di sila makahunt og food kay mas maklaro sila sa mga ilang mga predikuan sila mga prey. That's why time to time naga-change ang polar bear sa iyang color kay katong part sa polar bear na kuan katong brown na polar bear. Actually polar bear are kuan bears are color brown. So kato sila na namatay sila kay tungod wala sila naka-survive na bitaw. That's what happened. So ilang genes nila ga change nila na ilang genes through time to time. So moto so tong mga polar bears na mga puti sila tong sila tong nimong apex predator bitaw compared sa tong color brown na polar bears. So moro to. Thank you. Any questions regarding our lesson for today? We have 2 minutes to. I have 2 minutes to answer your questions before I would let you leave na dayon. So any questions? Anyone? Actually guys, nakoy part na wala na discuss ito katong pero I believe you can research it sa mga processes jud ato. Kaya di naman masigo sa time ang good. So any questions class? So if wala may question, it's pwede na mo leave. Hello? Hello class?
Wala na